Hello, welcome to QA tutorials. So in this video we will talk about verification and validation. So what is verification in software testing and what is validation? So we'll understand the difference between verifying the software and validating the software, and we'll see the definitions of these two keywords and what are the techniques to do verification and what are the testing techniques to do validation, right? So without further delay, let us get started. So let us see what is verification, right? What is the definition of verification, right? So verification is basically the process of evaluating software to determine whether the products of a given development phase satisfy the conditions imposed at the start of that phase, right? So we just evaluating the software to determine whether the products of a given development phase satisfy the conditions imposed at the start of the phase, right? We will have some conditions for how the software should be developed and what are the various standards or procedures to follow. So verification does the evaluation of the software based on those conditions. So what are the techniques used to do verification is basically called static testing, right? It's basically walkthrough of the code, inspection of the code, review with the peers of the software developed, and this is mostly static techniques to review the product and code that is developed in the process, right? So this is a simple definition of verification, and mostly verification is done through static testing, right? So these are the various techniques. So if you are not sure what is the walkthrough, inspection and all, review the manual testing course. There is separate videos for static testing techniques, right? Then what is validation? So the process of evaluating software during or at the end of the development process to determine whether it satisfies specified requirements. This is basically evaluating the software as per the requirements, right? So in this case we are going to do the testing part, actual testing part, and see whether the software works, right? Verification basically is a static technique where we will review the code or walk through the code and see if the software product adheres to the standards, and validation is basically to see that software works as per the requirements. That is validation. So what are the techniques used for validation? Is basically dynamic testing. That's basically actually testing it as per the testing techniques and as per the test plan and other things, and also testing by the end users. So this is the validation part, right? So both are important for successful completion of a project. So verification and validation, both techniques are needed to complete a project successfully. They complement each other, and both are required as part of a software testing of any project. So let us see some of the key differences between verification and validation. See what are the differences, right? So you see that verification is basically a static practice of verifying documents, design, code and program, whereas validation is dynamic mechanism of validating and testing the actual product. So that is what software testers do to test the actual product as part of validation, right? So verification does not involve executing the code, whereas validation involves executing the code, right? Verification is basically human-based checking of documents and files, and validation is computer-based execution of program, right? So verification uses methods like inspections, reviews, walkthroughs, and desk checking. Validation uses methods like black box testing, that is functional testing, gray box testing, and white box testing structures. So you can view these testing techniques in the manual testing course in the link provided in the description, right? And also the verification is to check whether software conforms to specifications, and validation is to check whether software meets customer expectations and requirements, right? So basically verification is kind of a static technique, whereas validation is kind of a dynamic testing. And also other differences in verification, it can catch errors that validation cannot catch. It's a low level exercise, right? Sometimes we can, by looking at the code or reviewing the documents, you can find some errors, and similarly validation can catch errors which verification cannot catch. It's a high level exercise, right? So verification target is requirement specifications, application, software architecture, high level and complete design and database design, etc. And validation target is actual product as a unit, right? A module, a bunch of integrated modules and effective final product, right? Verification mostly deals with design and architecture and database design and things like that. Validation is actually testing the product. Verification is done by QA team to ensure that software is as per the specifications of SRS document. So validation is carried out with involvement of testing team. So basically verification is done first before validation. It generally validation follows after verification. Okay, this is duplicate. Let's remove this. Right. So these are the various differences between verification and validation. I assume you got some idea of what is verification and validation, and how to use, when to use validation and when to use verification in the software product testing life cycle. And if you still have questions or comments, put it in the comment section. I will reply to your questions. And if you like this video, click on the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.